Hi, Tejaswini. Hi.
Hey, Ravi.
Yeah. Tejaswini, let us know when you're ready and we'll get started. Yeah. We have 3 things to do today.
Right, yeah. I think we can get started. We do have quite a few folks online. So let me just paste the agenda on that. You could go ahead and share your screen, Ravi.
Okay.
And start.
Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it is.
Hey. Yeah. Hey, Jay. Hey. Yeah. Hi, Jay. This is a follow-up for the discussion we had sometime back, a couple of months back. This PR is about we introduced some modes for packet spraying. One was the random packet spraying. The other one was round robin packet spraying. And then the feedback from Jay was there's already an existing enumeration that is used for random. And the reason for the follow-up was we were trying to talk to other vendors and it took some time, but then we got some feedback from the other vendors as well that, hey, they are in fact using this existing hash algorithm, random, for per packet random spraying. So Jay, whatever you said was true. This is being used by some vendors today for packet spraying, random packet spraying. So what we did is, right, we remodeled the proposal to use the existing enum and extended it to have round robin as well. And we also wanted to update the comments so that this confusion doesn't happen again. So this is part 1 of the follow-up we had last time.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Thank you.
Yeah. Jay, the second one is after this, then what we are doing is this today, we can set this selection. We can do it at a switch level. We are extending it to do a fine grain selection by using an ACL. We can select for particular flows or particular protocol type. We can set the selection mode to random or round robin. And the second is on a per lag object level or a per next top group level, we can again set the selection mode.
Wait a minute. So let me understand. So packet spraying, packet going out on a lag,
Yeah.
right? So basically you can have the
I just
hash.
took an example, just for maybe to make it easier, right? I just took one existing sonic topology. Okay, let's take this example, Jay, just for us maybe to visualize it, right? Let's say, can you see my pointer cursor? Yeah. Yeah. So let's say this is a Tor switch. Okay, and there could be 2 appliances connected to it over lags. So this one is lag 1 and the second is lag 2. It could so happen that one appliance could handle, doesn't need packets to be ordered, and another appliance needs packets to be ordered. Simple use case, right? Packets could come from the northbound to south, and we can, one appliance needs it to be ordered and the other appliance doesn't need packet ordering. So then this is useful to have it at a per lag object level.
Yeah, sounds good. So in that case, essentially, this is again at a per lag configuration, right?
Per lag configuration, yes. Yeah. And the same thing, we can extend it to be a next top group as well. The moment it becomes an IP connectivity, let's say each of this ports 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, each of them have some IP addresses, and then I have a loopback address to which I have a next top group created, and then each member next top is going to be the IP address of each of this port.
Right. So, and for next top group, we don't have that today.
Today, Jay, we don't have a way to select the hash selection mode, hash algorithm at the next top group level.
Oh,
Today,
it is ARS. It is at the ARS.
Yeah, ARS level has it,
Yeah.
but not for the regular load on other things, right? We don't have all this.
So you want to just put it on a vanilla next hop group,
Yes, Jay, exactly. Yeah, what you said,
not
right?
on so it's just okay. I got it. I think
Yeah,
that's
not for ARS, but just for the simple traditional types, Jay.
correct. Okay.
Yeah, Jay, I think that's all it was, Jay. The other things what we discussed, using an ACL with an action to select the, for example, for particular protocols, I need to be sprayed, right? Then we can use ACL.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, Jay, I think that's it. We can maybe quickly go over the C header file changes.
So I have a
Yeah,
question for
good.
you. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So typically you have a set number of hash blocks, right? Which are going to compute the hash.
Okay.
If I configure, uh, you know, different kind of hash algorithms, won't you go in a limitation where you have only certain number of hash blocks and cannot support all the permutation combinations?
Okay, Jay. I do see thing is whatever you said is true. Maybe for CRC, XOR, those kind of really which computes based on the packet fields. This one is Jay, is just random, right? We don't have any state. The only state is right. It just randomly picks a member. It doesn't need any computation at all.
I mean, you still need to produce a hash, right? I mean, you have to pick a number, right? Number need to be produced. Random
It could be
number.
just a random number, just a random number generation, and I do a mod on the number of member links, right? I don't need anything else. I don't need to look at the packet field and pass it to a hash computation
No,
block.
that part is okay. But essentially, the question, yeah, I mean, that's implementation. You can
Yeah,
just do a random number generator and just
yeah, that's a theoretical way. Yeah.
that's one way to do it. Or you can actually do a hash block for,
Yeah, maybe.
better, better random
Yes.
generation, random number generation. But the point I'm making is that we are walking towards a topology which can have a very fine granular load balancing algorithm configured, right?
Okay.
I mean, you can have per packet, you can have CRC, CRC30. Once you start enabling at energy level, right? Now I can have different. So and eventually sometime we have to take care of it. My question is that hardware has set number of blocks. If I configure, 10 different energies with 10 different algorithm and I have only, let's say, 3 blocks or 2 blocks,
Yes.
right? So I go in that situation. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I think this
Yeah.
proposal is okay, but that's something to keep in mind.
Yes, got it. A CRM thing. Yeah, I think I didn't think our use case was just about packet spraying, right?
Correct.
So I didn't think of CRC XR, but what you said is true. Maybe some CRM things. Do you think we should add, Jay, or can we take it as
I
another?
think we should take it as a separate one, but I
Yeah.
just, because now you have opened the Pandora's box.
Yes, yes. Now we could. It's no longer switch level, right? So the
Right.
scale comes in. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's otherwise it's good. Yeah. So we can take it as separate PR. I don't have an issue on that.
Yeah, Jay. Yeah. The PR is out there. Maybe we can just review offline. I think the rest of
Yeah.
the things I think we did go through last time.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I looked at it. This looks okay to me.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah.
Thanks.
Maybe I'll stop sharing. We have two more things to do today. If Rajkumar, if you're ready, maybe you can.
Yes, Ravi, I can share my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen. We are seeing
Your
your Outlook.
screen is my screen. Yeah.
Yeah, we are seeing Outlook.
Seeing me. Screen.
We are seeing a browser. Yes.
Okay. So in this proposal, we would like to add some enhancements to existing sitetime spec. So the first use case is you want to classify a flow and apply a time object as an ACL action. And the second requirement or the use case is that we would like to introduce a new report type with the GRE encapsulation along with some vendor extension header. And to support this, we'd like to add some new attributes in the collector as well. wherein we explicitly want to specify the source MAC and the destination MAC for the L2 encap and the new GRE protocol type. And along with this, we'd like to introduce a couple of new TAM report modes. One is the report generation can be in form of a sampling ratio, and another one is the burst of reports generation. And the last use case is that you would like to apply the switch TAM policy on a certain specific queue indices. Okay. So today we have a switch TAM policy that can be bind to a switch object, and we would like to add a fine-grained control on what are all the queues that this TAM policy should be applied at the device level. That's the last enhancement. So this is the sample report format. So we already have attributes for IPv4 and IPv6 in the transport of the collector. The new one, we are adding it for the source MAC and DMAC, and the GRE, we are adding a new attributes for it.
I have a question just on that. So is it not like ER-span, the header format?
No, so there is no ER-span encapsulation here. It's just a IPv4 followed by a GRE header.
No, I'm saying ER-span uses GRE as well, right? So
yes,
then you can put a truncated packet as well. Would that make sense, or you want to create this custom header?
For us, Jay, we are using our own protocol type, a custom protocol type. Our vendor protocol type. We are not using 0x88EB or the 22E, right? ER-span 3 or ER-span 2. We are not using those GRE protocol ID. We are using our own
because of
our
the
vendor extension, because a vendor format. That's what we are doing. And again, the vendor header, right? Typically, ER-span 2 has something defined, ER-span 3 has something else defined, right? One with sequence number, the other one with session ID and stuff, right? Ours is different because each ASIC has some very specific information that they can encode, right? So we are using vendor header.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You're going to have a new So Ravi, are you going to have a new GRE protocol? GRE, what's called proto?
That's proprietary version. Yeah, we have our own. Whatever GRE has a protocol version, right? We use our own proprietary GRE version. That's a meaning. That's the reason we call it vendor extension header.
Yeah, but the GRE, that protocol field is defined by INA or something, right? So
yeah,
I don't know if you're going to get a number. It's totally custom then.
Right? Yeah, it's totally custom. This vendor extension, right?
No, I think Ashok is asking in the IP protocol field, the protocol field value is GRE or it's something else?
That is GRE. What we're talking about is the GRE. In the GRE header, that's the next protocol field, right?
Okay.
That is the one I'm asking about. So the next protocol field is going to be custom, or is it going to be?
It's big custom. It's custom for us.
Okay, so it's not one defined by INA or something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the only place, I mean, if there is any parsing which is configured to look at the inner header, load balancing, then will cause an issue on the transit.
Yeah. The entropy might not be right. The entropy selection could go off, right? But yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, this is all completely, even if you're parsing, right, it's going to be our vendor header specific to us. So I'm not sure other switches are going to parse and understand that.
Right. No. I think this. Let's continue. I think we have
let's come back here.
Is there a way to generalize it for any vendor? Because right now it's becoming very specific to Marvell, right?
The vendor extension header, I thought that was the purpose. But let's come back. Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the holistically.
We'll think about it. But okay, I got the idea what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ravi. Let's jump into the attributes. So this is new action type for TAM introduced here. Right now, the existing ACL supports in TAM. So we have introduced a new attribute for the TAM object and a new ACL entry action to bind the TAM object OID to ACL flow. And next one is the TAM report modes. So the first mode is the probabilistic sampling, wherein so this mode helps to reduce the load on the external connector, where the reports will be generated out of 1 in every n events. Okay, and the sampling rate will be configurable. The next mode is the microburst mode. Say we have a scenario where multiple flows is causing a microburst, and it is useful to report all the packages that's part of this burst, right? So this can be achieved using this microburst mode.
A question? Right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand. So hardware is generating reports, and reports are what, a continuous, or they are thresholded?
It's thresholded actually.
It's
So
thresholded. And if it's, can you just go up a little bit on the screen, bring both of them, microburst and,
yeah.
Okay. So I'm just trying to understand. So take an example. Let's say that there is some PSAM packets are going, packet sampling is happening. Simple, right? And that's a trigger. There's a trigger for packet sampling. So after that trigger has happened, right, while those reports are going, you want to sample those reports itself.
Yes.
Hardware
Yes.
generated 100 reports, you want to do just 1 in 10 kind of a thing.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's your so that's after the fact, the reports which are being generated, right? Okay.
Yes.
And microburst is, how do you calculate the report rate, etc.? How do you define a microburst?
So the rate and the bus size, we have made it as a configurable attribute here.
Okay, let's go there.
Okay, so the first attribute is taking the sampling ratio here for the probabilistic sampling mode. And the next two attributes are for the microburst mode, where we are taking the rate and the bus size, the number of reports per bus, right? As a configurable attribute here.
Okay, so sample rate is what, 1 in n, or how it's defined?
This is 1 in n, yes.
This is 1 in n, like the way we have the sampler object, right?
Yes, correct, yeah.
Okay. Might want to just clarify that probabilistic sampling does not necessarily mean 1 in n. It can be a logarithmic scale as well.
Yes, I can update the comment here, yeah, maybe.
Okay, and microburst. So how there's a computation you do in the hardware that.
Yes, based on the rate and the bus size, we do the computation.
Okay.
So can you give me an example? And I'm trying to understand the same today's question, right? That how is the microburst defined? I mean, microburst is something like 10 packets in, let's say, 1 microsecond or something like that, right? So let's say I want to say 10 packets in 1 microsecond. That's a bad example, but then what will I set here?
Okay, so let's take an example. Say for example, the rate you are configuring as what it is.
Because if 10 packets per microsecond will translate
1K,
to
okay.
10 million per second, right? But if I do 10 million per second rate, but then it's not a microburst, right? So to define microburst, you have to define a duration and also the number of packets in that duration.
Okay, maybe Ashush, maybe yeah. The other way to look at it, right? Just trying to reason what we are trying to do, right? Let's say today what's happening with probabilistic sampling, it helps me in the case when I don't want the load to overwhelm the collector, but there are only few flows going around. And if I sample, I will know all these flows. But what we are seeing with microburst is we want to know all the packets that cause the microburst together. Okay, we just want to know all the packets that happen. Sampling doesn't work. At the same time, I don't want to keep on sending all the packets. Both doesn't work, right? So the mode what we are saying is, right, the key here is the microburst. This is like a burst size, right? I could say 100 packets or 1,000 packets. The first 1,000 packets that are whatever causing the microburst, right? The first n number of packets will always be sent. Thereon, the microburst rate kicks in. Only those many packets go out. But the first microburst, right? Let's take the example, right? I have set a event I create is whenever the queue length threshold goes beyond, let's say, 500 packets. When the queue length goes beyond 500 packets, right?
Mhm.
All the other packets that start happening, all the other packets that come in after that, we want to capture and send it out. So an event starts getting generated for every packet that comes in once the queue length threshold is breached.
Mhm.
Okay, so now what happens is the first n packets breaches, right, that happen, the n corresponding to the attribute I call as max reports per microburst. Those will be
Okay.
sent out as is. Okay, and after that, once this bucket is empty, right, all the tokens are empty, the tokens get filled based on the microburst rate, and only further breaches, right, are sent out at that particular rate. So now coming back to your question, right? So what this helps me solve is, right, all I need to tell is which packets come together, how many packets together for me is a microburst. And that value will go into the reports per microburst field.
Yeah, I kind of understand the intention. Well, I understand the intention, but I'm still trying to comprehend the implementation, right? So let's say you got a microburst. After that, so you went into microburst mode, and after that, you're sending one packet every something. How do you get out of microburst mode? Is it like
It isn't, right? The threshold is breached, okay? And then what would happen is, right, when the queue length falls below, then no longer will the breaches happen. So we are out of the microburst mode.
okay? So you're basically microburst mode is triggered once.
Yeah.
I think that kind of detail will help to understand what we are trying to do here, because
Maybe we
just a
can give an
definition of what is
example
a
of this.
microburst, but just the definition of what is a microburst is not sort of clear, right? Because this is
I
a
think we'll try
microburst
to
of your
illustrate
code.
this, right? Yeah, I think fair point. We can take in, right? Just put, I think it just is existing TAM event and TAM threshold, we'll put that. And on top of that, whatever events get generated, right? How it's getting rate limited based on the spectrum burst mode, right? We can maybe explain it.
Okay, so once you get in, so second one is to detect when you are in the microburst. Okay, so after that many, okay, so when you say the maximum reports for microburst again, right? Okay, so I got it. You look for n packets, sorry, n reports. But what is the duration in which you look n reports to go out? I mean, there should be to detect the microburst, right? You should say that I have n packets, n reports which were sent out in some small
Okay,
duration.
okay. I think that's a distinction. I think today, let's say there's already something called the TAM threshold. When I create an event, all these are event-based telemetry, right? For event-based telemetry, I could have a TAM threshold object that lets me, for me to define when an event gets generated. Okay, in that threshold, I could just give some queue length, right? If my queue length goes beyond 20%, 30%, 40%, or 50%, right? So that
That's there.
that is enough to at least detect that the burst happened, right? A micro burst happened because my queue length sputtered. Queue length buildup happened.
But that is only if, I mean, in this case, you're not saying that, right? That condition that you're in the queue length, or right, could be done
I
for
think that's
anything,
all
right?
existing. Okay. Why we didn't cover here? Because that's already existing in
No,
SciTAM,
but
right?
but that is for that particular mode, right? But this TAM report attribute is generic, right? So I thought you're detecting a microburst on the report and not a microburst on the.
No. So what? Okay, maybe just like what Jay was asking the previous question, right? The events get generated. Event in this case, right? Every packet that comes in after the queue length threshold is breached. Okay, those are all events. Now, not all events will send out reports. That control is being done by this report object called either probabilistic sample rate or the microburst mode, right? That controls for each event, when an event is generated, whether report is getting generated or not, right? That is going to be controlled by this report attr, either probabilistic sample rate or the microburst parameters. Okay, probabilistic sample rate, I think we all understand, right? Not a problem. The microburst rate is what's the more interesting one. So what we are saying is, right, now in the microburst, the whole idea is to get all the packets that continuous packets that cause the microburst. Okay, so all the top n packets, right? All the n packets max reports per microburst, whatever is that n number, all those packets will be sent out.
Yeah, that's where I get confused, because the queue threshold can exceed even without a microburst, right? I mean, it could simply exceed because the port is blocked.
Yeah.
So why are we attaching it to the?
Okay, okay. I think okay. So this microburst was, I think, one of the use case, but maybe we could change the name to say.
You simply say max reports. I don't understand the
Yeah.
per
Okay.
microburst part. Yeah.
Yeah. I think microburst more like a use case. Maybe we could call it.
Yeah. Because tab report can be generated by anything, right? It's not
Yes.
just for
Yeah.
the queue.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I got confused. Okay.
Ashish, one help, can you put some comment, right? If you can say if some suggestions or something, or at least put a comment of the misleading thing, we'll try to rename it properly. Yeah, some other name will come.
Okay. Sure. I will do it. Yeah.
So Ravi,
Thanks.
would you like to simplify it? Like, see, the definition of microburst is two things: duration and number of packets within that duration, right?
Yes.
So you can, specify those tuple, like take another enum, which has the number of packets and duration that combined together gives you a rate.
Sorry, Jay, I lost you here. Can you come again? Can I...
So I'm saying that essentially what you want to send n packets within certain duration. That's your goal, right? Which you are calling it as a microburst.
Yeah.
No, Jay, that is the confusion. The micro. That's what I was confused too. I think the microburst here is the cause of the time event. The
It's,
way Ravi,
oh,
it's not the after. Yeah.
okay. Okay, then I'm also confused now.
No.
Yeah.
I think.
Let's get clarified. So Ravi, in the workflow, there are two phases. One is where some threshold is breached, and it can be breached for any reason. And then the second phase comes, which we are talking, where the reports are generated. Okay.
Yes.
So reports are today, there's already a configuration which says what is the export interval. So that is like every that interval. You have added the probabilistic sample, right? 1 in n. And is the microburst specific to that report generation, or?
Yeah, it's in the phase 2. This is in the phase 2, second phase, right? First is when the threshold is getting breached. That's a phase 1 where events are getting generated.
Right.
And phase 2 is what you said is the report generation, right?
So Ashutosh, I think
Yeah, I know. I didn't get the same answer last time, so I'm sort of.
Oh, sorry, I said the same. I think, right, this is after, post the event. See, the threshold is used, Ashutosh, to generate the events, right? The threshold, if I say the queue length is
That's an
above X.
independent thing, right? That's some event.
That
Forget about
existing
threshold.
thing. Yeah.
Some event caused the reports to be generated, right? Because you're using it for the event mode, right? It's not used for the streaming mode, right?
Yes.
So for the event mode, some event happened. Forget about it. What threshold was achieved or not doesn't matter. Some event happened. After that, you want to do what? You want to send some number of packets.
Yeah, today, let's say, right, some event happened, and today what happens is, Ashutosh, there are two ways, right? There's something called reporting interval, which lets me either bulk wait for some n events to come in for over a period of time and send them together. Okay, that's one what is happening today. And then the other mode is whatever packet event got generated, we send it as is. Okay, now let's say, right, event when the queue threshold is breached, it could be not just one event, a bunch of packets are coming in together.
Yeah, whatever event happened, yeah, you want a bunch of reports which can go out.
Yeah, bunch of events get generated. Now the question is, before the reports go out, existing thing is bunch of events get generated. All these events either get aggregated over the report interval and get sent out, or each of this event that got generated gets transformed into a corresponding report, and the report goes out. Okay, so now what we are adding is, one is out of that n events created, right? We are sampling and sending it only X of it. That's a sampling, right? For every n events that get generated, only one report goes out. Only one of that event is picked and sent out. That's a simple sampling rate. This is all phase 2. Yeah. The other one, what the microburst, we'll look at the name again, but what that does is, right, if let's say 100 or 1000 such events got generated in that interval, after the queue length got breached, some 1000 packets came in.
No, but what interval? Where are you specifying the interval in which 1000 packets came in?
So this, right, it's
That has to be some
Yes.
interval in which you count 1000 packets, right? Because you know my question, right? You say 1000 packets, but in what
yeah.
interval?
Yeah, so
So
actually,
this is
I think Ravi, Ash's question is valid, and that's where I was kind of going to. See, when we say microbus, essentially what you want to do in nutshell, and that I believe that's what Ashutosh is saying, that you want to send n packets within a time interval t, right?
Yeah.
Right, and what so this is very confusing the way it is structured right now. All you want is n packets in a very short time interval t, but then it creates a second question: do you want a gap into the second time interval t, or you want to keep on generating n packets at every time interval t in a continuum?
Okay, maybe the way I could explain is, right, let's say the events are getting generated, and now let's conceptually think of it, right, after the events are getting generated and before putting it into the generating reports, we go through a polisher. Let's say a polisher with the commit rate and a commit burst size.
Right.
Okay, this max reports per microburst can be thought of as a burst size, and the rate at which this burst bucket gets filled is the microburst rate.
No, that I know exactly, like in hardware what you're doing, but can we simplify in its abstraction, right?
Okay.
Right now you're trying to expose the parameters for the polisher commit rate, right? In its the way it's actually programmed in the hardware. Can we simplify it and see? Uh, Essentially, what you are saying that you want to send n packets in a time interval t, right?
Okay. Or okay.
I mean, if you say microbus, then that's a very hard abstraction to.
Yeah. I think that I understood that. I think the name. See, this
You can
polisher
simply
could
say
have.
polisher rate and polisher bus size.
Yeah.
And that
I
will
think that's
be
what I'm.
Yeah, if you can just call it a polisher, like you attach a polisher. What do we have a polisher object in the SI? We do, right?
We do have, but that has a lot more polisher type, etc. Right? Those kind of complexity, color, cover. A lot
I
of
mean,
things are there, right?
some
SRTCM, TRTCM.
right. So, is there some attributes, minimal attributes, which can be used? Because that will also make a lot of sense if you attach polisher here.
Yeah.
That will
most of them are optional. Yeah. Most of those attributes are optional, Ravi, anyway. So I think you can create a two rate single color polisher essentially.
Correct.
So the idea is to, maybe what you're saying is have a report data which will point to a polisher OID, polisher object.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's simpler. Yeah, then it's very easy to model, right? It's
Then
very easily understood.
the mental model will be a lot more simpler.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the problem would be how do we do the capability query to understand what kind of polisher is supported for with the TAM report. See, the device supports all types of polisers when I use it with an ACL meter or something, right? With a ACL action. But with this kind of TAM reporting, we might not support all those possible combinations. I'm just thinking.
You can try looking at the storm control polisher, and that's the storm control polisher also doesn't support all those modes, if I remember correctly. Or if you're very worried about that issue, then you can at least copy the same attributes and same names and put it here, right? That could be other option. I would still prefer a polisher OID because that's very simple. But if you're really worried about that, then try using the exact
The storm
same.
control fields, right? Which is just having a single rate and a single burst size.
And use the same fields and same names and all that. So it's kind of
so
easier
that
to
it looks like a
understand.
polisher.
Yeah, don't use the word microburst, because to do
Yeah.
microburst, you'll have to define yet another attribute. There's one attribute missing at least here to define a microburst.
Yeah, you want to know time interval, right? What's the time interval?
Yeah.
Rajkumar, is that fine, right? I think.
Yes, yes, Ravi. Yeah, can revisit this.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. I'll just continue. Okay, so in transport type, we have introduced a new type GRE. This is to help in the GRE header encapsulation, and the GRE protocol type we are added an attribute here. to take the GRE protocol ID. And next one is for the TAM collector. So we have added and DMAP to NCAP, and already we have fields for source IP and dest IP, and additionally we have added a new attribute as a collector attribute destination that will this is nothing but a network port which is connected to the external collector. So all the reports which are generated will be sent out of this destination port.
You also need a VLAN tag or something like that in the case that that destination happens to be a tag port or something like that, or you're always going to send untagged packets because you're not doing a lookup in the pipeline to decide the destination, right? That's why
No,
I think
yeah.
you need source map, destination back, and destination. So in your case, you're always sending the untagged packets.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can add a comment. Yeah, it's a valid request. We can have a VID and cap as well.
Yeah, I'll put that in the comments.
Yeah. Okay. So the last one is the regarding the switch time object is bind to a switch. So today, as I said before, we can create a time object and bind it to a switch object, and that time policy is applicable to entire switch. Now we may have a scenario or a use case where my time policy is related to some queue monitoring events like a tail drop or a threshold, and if I want to add a fine granular control on which are all the queues that this policy should be applied. So this attribute will help me there, where I'm just directly taking the list of queue indices wherein this time policy is valid.
Rajkumar, this has
Yeah.
a little bit of a possibility of getting basically what you're saying is that let's say queue index list 2, 3, 4, then it's applicable to all the ports, right? I mean, that's
Yes.
the constraint you will put it. Would it
Yes.
make sense to keep it within the TAM object where object type is of a queue? So I have to look at it, but I'm just just thinking top of my head. We can have a binding of objects for which the TAM object is operating at, meaning that you can create a list of objects within the TAM as well. There are two ways we operate: either bind the TAM to an object or bind the object to a TAM. And whenever you have a queue object binding, you specify what's the list of queues there instead. So basically, my question is, how do you make it more flexible? Right
So what
now,
you're suggesting is
for every port, this index list, whatever you specify, this applicable to all the ports, correct?
yes.
If I want to have a queue list, index list, which is per port, how can I achieve that? That's the question.
Jay, for that case, we can go attach a TAM object directly to each of the queue, right? Each
Port.
queue today has a TAM object ID.
I think it's
So-
already there. That's
Yeah,
already
it's already there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Today, what is not there? We don't have an object to say a queue index. Let's say I want to enable this on all the third queue of all the ports.
But
Today,
what if
SI doesn't have an object for that.
I know, I know, and that part, that the proposal solves that. But my question is, what if the queue numbers are different on different port?
Yeah. Because in this case, we have to go to each queue and add it, Jay. That's whatever your current already has attributes for this, right? What we added in the first phase, you had every queue as an object called SI queue at a TAM.
So, I mean, is there a problem using that, or
the problem is, let's say, right, not the device doesn't have. There is some feature which can be done only at the uniformly across all the ports.
True, but in that case, why not? I mean, you can argue that it's a bloated workflow. You have to do many more steps to achieve the same thing. That's the argument I can see, but it should be doable as far as workflow is concerned, right?
It becomes stateful in the sense, right? Same argument what you have been telling, right? It becomes stateful for the SI implementation to keep tracking. So what happens, right? When the object is getting attached to port Q1 of port 1, we'll have to wait for this object to be getting attached to Q1 of all the ports before we start doing the programming or something, right? That's the challenge that becomes all stateful. And
It's a create and set. You can still modify it, right? I mean, even the proposal is create and set, no different.
no, let's say take this example, Jay. For example, in the device, if you're enabling that feature, it has to be enabled on all the queues, all the ports queues. If I say on Q5, I want to enable this TAM monitoring, it has to be enabled on Q5 of all the ports.
Okay.
If that's such a behavior, right? Now, with the existing model, what I can do, what the NOS can do is, it can go to port 1, Q5, that's one QoID for that, right? On that QoID, it can attach a TAM object 1.
Right.
But we'll have to still wait for the same TAM object 1 to be attached to port 2's Q1. Similarly, port 3's Q1, like that, we have to wait for all this to happen on all the ports before we can enable it on the
Yeah, it's hard for me to comprehend that, an implementation will have such a limitation.
Because right, see, typical devices, there has been a class, an object like a traffic class or an object called a queue index, right? Or traffic class, that's very common, right? There are a lot of features that get enabled on a traffic class level. Today,
Correct.
we don't have a traffic class object inside. That's a challenge. That's a whole challenge. We don't have a traffic class object on which we can specify some features. For example, on this traffic class, I don't want flooding to happen. It's a lossless traffic class. I don't want any bum traffic to go out of it, right? So those kind of features we don't have. That's why we have to resort to these kind of things, Q index or all these things. I think the same thing happened with when we did that packet trimming, right? What was the NVIDIA recent proposal? There also they had to come up with some Q index list to say that, hey, across all the ports, I want to enable packet trimming on this particular queues.
Yeah, but we modified it to use the TC map. So it has both the proposal. You can have a very specific queue for all the ports, right? Or it can be derived from the traffic class. So that, I think, enhancement we did. But I think my it's little bit, it's looking inefficient. That's what
Okay.
I'm yeah, it's basically what your argument is, that you have a requirement where all the queues on the port need to enabled as a one shot, as a bulk update,
Yes.
Yes.
right? That's
Yeah.
and today, if we do through the regular binding of TAM to queue object, then it's one queue object at a time, right? And you don't know when it's going to finish
Yes.
on
Until
all,
that time, what we, yeah, exactly.
right?
Do we say failure or not, right, Jay, for the first calls? We don't know.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that's, I mean, if there is an implementation like that, it's kind of, yeah, okay, I'll think about it. It looks a little clunky to me.
Okay.
These global attributes for specific things in the switch. Remember, also anything we add in a switch also increases the switch init time, and that's a big penalty, right?
Okay. This what I understand, Jay. If we can somehow do this in the TAM object, you're okay, right? Or
Yeah,
two
yeah.
things.
So sorry, go ahead.
Two things. One is do it into the TAM object, or generically, right? We create a new object like a TC or a Q index.
Yes,
Right.
and then try to create a binding there. Correct. Yeah.
Others, Ashutosh and others, any so that we're all consistent, because that's going to be a bigger change, right? If all of us are
That's
on
a
the
little
same.
bit going to be a bigger change, but that's also going to be Ravi scalable, right? We can use that construct going forward as a template,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern for me, which is coming, one is that this is very specific for a behavior, right? It makes an assumption of a certain hardware implementation. More than that, and I think sometimes we do live with that. Uh, More than that, now you are putting additional workload during the switch init,
Okay.
right? And switch init is something which we all know that we are paranoid about the switch init time.
Yeah. See, this is new. I just want to understand this because this was slightly new. Why do you say adding a new attribute to switch increases the switch init time? Just trying to understand that part.
Because such attribute need to set, and SciAdapter has to minimally program. Let's say even if it's not doing hardware programming, it's doing a handoff or something. There is additional work which we have to perform in the init time, versus switch init completes, and whenever the TAM object is now getting worked on, you worry about this configuration in the TAM. Switch init will be guarded by this attribute programming configuration.
Okay, trying to understand. Even if it's not a mandatory on create and set object, right?
I mean,
Even then,
assuming that the implementation needs it, of course. If it's not
needs.
mandatory, if it's not needs it, then of course it cuts out. But if it needs it, right,
Okay.
then you are adding switch init to that.
Okay.
So if we can avoid, and this is a little bit coming, I think this problem has started showing up pretty recently.
Yeah.
So far there was not much, so we were not. Now we see that switch init time for various attributes which are being shoved in switch are impacting.
Okay. And Jay, what were you saying, right? Creating a new Q index or a TC class object also makes sense for future use cases also.
Future use
Maybe,
cases, right?
yeah. So I think we'll take a look at that.
Yeah,
Maybe.
let's or you can do another thing. You can take this out as a new PR if this is a bigger change. If it's okay with you, and bring rest out, because rest of the changes are pretty well contained and relatively clean, including the police or what Ashutosh was mentioning.
Yeah. I think the police, that's a good comment. We thought about it, but I think we used the microburst. We could have used the same. We'll use the same storm control terminology, right? That will make easy storm control police thing. Yeah. This maybe two things we can do, Jay. I'm just thinking, Rajma, two things we can do. We can have the same HLD access, address the microburst thing, right? Change it to policer, and just take out the size switch at a TAM Q index out of this. Do everything else, let it go. And the size switch at a TAM Q index list, right? That we could again create a new follow-up PR. Is that fine, Jay? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. Just raise a different PR for this, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay, can do that.
I think that makes sense. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the next is sample flow workflow. So this is pretty standard stuff. So first thing is we are creating a GRE transport object, giving our custom GRE protocol type. And the next one is we are creating a collector object. We are setting all the NCAP information for L2 and L3. And we are giving the destination port where the reports has to be sent out. And next thing is we are creating a report object with a probabilistic sampling mode, mentioning the rate, sample rate here. And the next one is the event. You can take any event. So here we are taking a time event threshold latency. And we are creating an event action object. These are all the existing ones. No difference to this. So the time event, so at first we are creating a time event object. Pending the event type, action list, collector list. And eventually you're creating the time instance with the bind point. The last one is where we want to bind our time to a specific set of queues in the switch. We'll revisit this now. And this is just a sample flow for replacing the probabilistic sampling with the the microburst or the polyzer one, what we have discussed it, how we can configure it as part of a TAM report. And the last one is to bind a time policy to a active flow as an ACL action. Okay. So this is pretty standard stuff. These are all the new things we have added it. Okay, that's all I have here in this proposal. Any other queries or concerns regarding this proposal? I mean, I have to call the points.
No, none
Yeah.
from my side.
Yeah. Same here.
Okay, Jay. Yeah. So then I'll address the comments and push the PR again. Yeah. And yeah, I'm sorry. There is one concern I have. What Kamal raised actually regarding having a destination. Just discuss this. So this attribute, Kamal is in call.
Kamal is on the call. Yeah.
Kamal.
Yeah, I'm on the
Oh, yeah,
call.
it's Kamal is here. Yeah, yeah. So this collector at destination. So if you see, this is taking. So the destination can be of type port, a lag, or system port, something like this. Okay. So this port is different from where the time object is bind to. Okay. And the existing infra is detecting a loop saying that this new attribute is causing a loop actually.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so you just need
So the
a
problem here is
input from the
that
community of the server.
at this level, we don't care about, whether this port is actually exactly the same port or not, like in terms of OID. But this algorithm here checks whether there is a, loop. So basically, can you go from one object to another? Because it can cause like recursive dependency on objects, which then cannot be like resolved. Yeah, but potentially you can make such a recursive dependency here,
But
and
in the use
that's why
case here
that's why
is
you're
that
getting this error.
yeah, this understood, Kamal. But here the use case is a bit different, right? The traffic is ingressing on, say, port A, but my destination can be connected to port Z here.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
explained you that
okay.
at this point we don't care about whether the port is the same or not. We check
Okay.
here whether you are able to create dependency, like recursive dependency, and this is why you're getting this error here.
Okay.
So
So can be
is there any way you can do this like around? Can you make this in a different way?
I'm not sure how we can do this. Because like to make the destination where the read will be transported out, right? So that can be of a port, or we may have to create a new object. This one.
Kamal, at least there's a way to add exceptions for these kind of things. At least, Kamal. See, because of the tool, we don't want to change the abstraction, right? We don't want to lose the readability of whatever the spec. Is there a way we can add exceptions for these cases?
You know, we can add exception for everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
basically, then we don't have a stable standard. We just have an exception on an exception. So that's one way to develop
Okay.
software. To have exceptions on exceptions on exceptions and go on.
Yeah. Okay.
Or we can have a stable standard here.
No, but we can't limit use cases, right? We can't limit Sai from exposing new use cases. That's a challenge. This is limiting a use case. This check, right, is limiting a use case just because it's looking at the object type instead of the actual object, right? This limits some real use case.
So, so the problem with exceptions here is we either add exception here for that, or we allowing this use case here, or then we will, we'll have special logic for that, which will be also exception in Sonic actually to treat this, to go specifically to look for that loop and to make sure whether it happens or not. So at this level, this logic here makes sure that this loop will not happen. So we don't need to go and write special logic to go because you can actually see how long this loop is. It's not like it's two objects. It's I think 8 different objects. So we will actually need to explicitly implement that in Sonic in Redis to see whether we have that dependency or not. So the problem here is that, if we add exception here, then we need to go and implement that, special logic there. And for a long time, we actually didn't have to deal with such use cases. And yeah, and so far we made it. So I'm not sure how this is actually for example, why this, I don't know the actual use case here because I don't know the TAM objects here. But in some, for example, other cases that we have, I think, similar loops in the past. So that was solved in a way that instead of having the attribute on the object that was causing the loop, there was an attribute added in the like start of the loop on the object. So for example, I'm not sure if this is possible here, but for example, here we start with the port, yeah, and from the port we go to this all these objects to a destination TAM collector. So for example, one way to get around this would be to have an TAM collector destination as an attribute in object port. Yeah, so it would be not an attribute on the collector, but it would be attribute on the port, on which you would set the actual collector. I'm not sure if that kind of approach is possible here.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's not looking intuitive. Well, let's say, right? You're saying the object type port has a TAM collector. Oh.
I'm not sure because I know I don't understand your logic here because I'm not an expert in this kind of objects. So I'm just thinking.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
maybe
also Ravi,
let's.
sorry, just
Yeah,
a point about that these ports will be different, right? That let's
yeah,
think about a leaf spine topology, right? And this is the
yeah.
uplink port on the leaf. So
Okay,
usually if you're monitoring something on the leaf switch, the reports will go out on that uplink, right? Because the collector is somewhere else in the network. So you will use that uplink port to send the report out. Also, the traffic coming from spine will arrive on the same port, right? So,
yeah.
and you will want to monitor that. So, I mean, this thing that these will be different port will not always be true, because any port between leaf and spine will be used for both.
True, or it could be different also, right? We could have separate
It could be
management
different.
ports or
It could
ops
be
ports.
same.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. It
And
could be both.
yeah, and device can support both, right, Ashu? It's just about the traffic engineering
Exactly.
as long as you're right. It's all this. So device can support all this. This problem is because of this the tooling check, right? It's trying to detect loops, and that's the problem is more with the tools rather than what there
No, no.
is.
Yeah, I'm
feature
saying that,
implementation. Yeah,
but in the case where they are the same port, right?
yeah.
It's not just a tooling problem.
No, but this is not a problem to begin with. So that's what I'm thinking. If I could have some events happening, and the events is sent out on the same packet, okay, it's not true that they'll always cause cyclical events or something like that, right?
On
For
the
example,
configuration part, right? This is only on the configuration. I think the loop is
configuration part.
only, loop is only on the configuration, right? That's
Yeah.
where I think the Redis is trying to catch, is just my guess, right? This is not a loop for the packet. This is more of
Packet.
a loop in the configuration case where you you try to configure something on the port, which ends up calling the TAM object, and then TAM object ends up calling the port object again, something like that. I think that's what Kamil is trying to catch.
Yeah.
But
How is this an issue? Even the config, I'm just trying to understand. Kamil, can you explain what's the issue with the configuration having a loop?
So the problem here is that in Sonic we have this like this, for example, this warm boot scenario, yeah, when we have this configurations before and after warm boot, and that configuration is of the device is basically a graph, yeah. So basically like a graph of object dependencies, and based on that object dependencies, then we actually go and we are doing a comparison on the configuration before and after, and based on that, we go and figure out what needs to be changed. And part of that is that what we do is we get like an, let's say, random object, and we go through all those attributes on that object, which are OID attributes, and then we recursively go to see
Okay.
whether those objects depends on different objects, and we go that recursively until we get to an object that has no dependency, and then we start from this object, yeah, because we cannot have like there is no way to match proper configuration if we have like two objects and they depend on different objects, so we don't know then what to do. And
Yeah.
some of those attributes also can be like mandatory on create or create only, and that puts another constraints that, for example, in such cases we cannot like set the new value of this object. We need to destroy the object, and before destroying it, we need to go to destroy all the object that this object
So
has dependencies
pointed
on,
to. Okay.
and so on, and then recreate the new object with the values and the new dependencies. Yeah. So in this case, we are avoiding loops to have like to not go into infinite loop for dependencies if we will have those, and to not have like any, I mean, to actually limit like any specific logic that needs to be implemented to actually prevent and do like manual checks to
Okay.
if there is a loop or not, yeah. And
Okay.
I think
Okay.
currently we have like I think like one or two such cases implemented. I think one is for mirroring session, because that also can include some ports, and I think the second one is either on queues or on scheduler groups, but that's like really hardware specific implementation. So yeah, so for the future, like any objects, we try to like limit like anything that have loops here. So that's why this condition
Check
is
is there.
here.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Kamal. Now I understand. You're talking about side discovery, right? During apply view and init view reconciliation. You do
Yes.
the side
Yeah.
discovery on the switch to get the difference. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure. Kamal, we might, Rajkumar, maybe we'll have to try if something is there. If there's not we don't find a way to, right? That's what.
Or the one other way is that we may have to create some new object type and add the collector attributes there and bind that object type to this one, or edit to this
I
attribute in
think
this
like creating like a
tab.
new object will not solve the issue here.
Yeah, because it will just add one more loop, one more level in that loop. Finally, the
Yeah.
new object will have a point to a port, right, Rajkumar? Then it will be again
Okay.
a loop. It'll just add the length of the loop will increase. That's it, I think.
But Kamal, so in the side, so side it is, ideally value of the port, right? I mean, OID of the port, right? To whether it's the loop is landing on the same port or not, correct?
Sorry? Can you repeat
No, in
that?
Sonic, you're saying, so you have, no, the question is that ideally you should be validating on the value of the port OID, right? Whether the loop is landing back to the same OID or not, correct?
So
It
in
cannot
the
be based on
Cyberdis,
the object.
I mean, in Cyberdis, we don't check for loops. So, if you
Okay.
right now, for example, if you add such a dependency here as we have, there is a possibility that you create a loop and that will just go that will just cause a crash because we don't check whether there is a loop or not. Because the current logic which we have here that prevents to have a loop, yeah, that makes sure that we will not have a loop. And because there is no like you cannot like by definition create a loop here, so we don't need to check that in the Redis, yeah. And anyway, if uh, either if we have a loop and we detect a loop, for example, yeah, then there is also no way to there is no way to what to do in case of detecting a loop. Yeah, if we find that. Is this the only way to behave is to crash because you don't know what to do if is there a loop. Yeah. So if you want to introduce a loop here, then explicit logic needs to be added then inside Redis to actually detect if there is a loop, and if there is a loop, then just crash. Yeah, like crash in a nice way. Yeah, like exit, throw an exception, or whatever. Yeah, instead of just going recursively into infinite until the stack will run out. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure on those. We can proceed.
Yeah, just Kamal, if you have time, can you just explain how did we solve it for mirror? Because mirror, the same problem exists, Kamal. What could happen is I could attach a mirror object to a port, and then the mirror object also has something called a port. The local destination is a port. So there's a loop of just 3 objects: a port pointing to a mirror session, and the mirror session again pointing back to a port. A loop
Yeah.
could exist.
Yeah.
So what do you do there?
I don't remember exactly because that was like added, I don't know, six years ago, something like that.
Okay. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't remember a code. But if there is a loop detected, we probably crash. I would need to go and dig up the code for that. But I remember that this particular scenario is explicitly encoded in that logic. Yeah. So if we want to go this way, then we still need to like explicitly encode that. I think also uh, by Miro, I think that there was also as like special case because I think there were also two sub cases for that. So one was that normally when we configure the device, the ports are associated like they are like constant, so they don't change between the reboots. So in that case, if there is a loop, then that is actually fine because we match those objects and between reboots, and ports are matched based on the how is that called? so the port is identified by the lines, yeah, how many lines you have connected, like 1, 2, 4, or 8 lines you have connected, yeah.
Okay.
So
Lanes.
and that each line is like unique over the entire switch, yeah. So if the port is actually matched, and if it have a loop, then that actually doesn't matter because the port is already matched because it's exactly the same port. But there is another scenario, so we can actually break the ports, yeah. So one port is, for example, break into 2 or 4 different ports, yeah. So that is different scenario, and in that scenario, if there is a loop, then we will crash. Yeah, because we don't know what to do in that case because those ports then are not matched. Yeah. So the port is actually like, really special and more complicated use case in this case. Yeah. So I think, sorry. So I think it would be a similar scenario here. Yeah. So even if there is a loop, but the port is like not changed, it was not splitted between the reboots, then I think that should be fine. But if it was splitted that and there is a loop, then I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. And the commit check you're not running for mirrors, it's not flags this error, is it? The whatever script that is throwing error. The checkers.
Sorry.
Today that
This,
whatever.
yeah, go ahead, Ravi.
Sorry, Rajkant, what was the script, right? This is the checkers.pl or the
Which
script is
thing?
failing?
This is sanity check.
Sanity check. Yeah.
Sanity check. Okay. So this, how is the sanity check not failing for the mirror port, Kamal?
Because it's explicitly added as an exception there.
An exception. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, if it's added here, then the special case also needs to be added in the
Sonic.
Sireli. Yeah.
Okay. Cyrus repository.
So I guess that we can add an exception for this one, but it needs to be changed in both those cases. And this particular loop would need to be explicitly encoded. That this particular path needs to be exactly encoded to be as an exception.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Kamal, the other way I was thinking can work on the psi modeling, but looks very clumsy. What I could have done, Kamal, is right. For example, I could have introduced a new table, a key-based lookup. See, today the loop detection happens only if it's an object ID or object list, right? If I create a table and do a map, the last thing, right? In this case, for example, TAM collected destination needs to point to a port. But instead of that, if I can create a new table object whose key is going to be the TAM collected destination and the field would be a port. The key would be a TAM collector OID and the output will be a port, right? Will this
I think there is also another concept that that we probably should not introduce like just artificial objects, yeah, because it makes no sense. At least that was assumption at the beginning that objects that we have we should they should represent the actual at least some part on the hardware, yeah, like we have. Except when we for example cannot avoid that this kind of scenarios, yeah.
Okay. Okay, because I think there are some checks that this new object, what are we creating? It should have a link to a switch eventually. It should be traceable
Yes.
from the switch object.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we can go with that exception route, but you would need to explicitly encode this path to be as an exception. And
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Kamal, just one thing. If we have to go via side disk commit, should we take a look at it, or will you help, or can we can also do it the side disk thing if needed? I mean, coding that side disk. if you want to take the exception path.
So inside Redis, I think we can, we can worry about that later, because I think this will be not like utilized right away. But then I can help you with that,
Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Kamal. I'll add the exception to the sanity check then.
Okay. Yeah. I think thanks for the extra time. All thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Asutosh. Thanks, Tejaswini. Thanks, Kamal.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay, bye, guys.